Hey, this is Steve from Tower Genius. And maybe you're wondering, what is Steve from Tower Genius doing here poolside at the beach? Pensacola Beach, that is. Well, I'm actually conducting an in-depth study on the value of rooftop cell sites that are on oceanfront properties, believe it or not. All right, maybe you don't believe me, and I probably made that up. But if you are a condominium board member, or if you own a hotel that's oceanfront anywhere in the United States, here I happen to be on the Gulf Coast, but you want to make sure that when your lease is up for renewal, that you don't accept terms that are going to hurt the valuation of the site, such as taking a right of first refusal or rent reduction or rent guarantee. Typically, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon are going to be contacting you, as soon as they can, right? Let's say within 5-10 years of the lease renewal date. The carriers are aggressively pursuing rent reductions wherever they can get them. Okay, the carriers, from what I can tell, are not really that focused on trying to reduce like energy, their electricity costs, or other things that they could do to spend less money on operating the site. And the low-hanging fruit is the landlord, right? So they're going to come to you asking for a rent reduction, and they're going to be very aggressive. You can expect to get nasty letters, right? Intimidating letters saying that they're going to exercise their right of termination potentially and relocate the site. Things to consider is that there's a cost involved, right? So like here, I'm not going to turn the camera around, but like in front of me, there's 5 or 6 high-rise hotels, 20 condos, 20 stories plus, right? And several of them have cell sites on them. But where you have other sites available, they can easily go to the other rooftop. And here's the thing: there's no guarantee they're going to get it for any cheaper than they're paying on your rooftop right now. There's also relocation costs of several $100,000, and it could take them 2 or 3 years to move that site. So they're going to put the pressure on to get a rent reduction. And I tell property owners and advise landlords, just say no. And if you're concerned about the future viability of the site, again, I've seen letters as recently as last week that a landlord got, and actually I've seen a few of them this month. And the carriers are talking about Starlink and other technologies, artificial intelligence. Yes, and the things are changing rapidly. Personally, my belief is that, in 20 years, I think, these things, they could become obsolete. Again, I don't have a crystal ball, but what I tell my clients is, if you are going to lose sleep at night over these things, then just sell them. Do a lease buyout and put the money in something else that is less risky. Here in Pensacola Beach, AT&T and Verizon have small cells every few hundred feet. So you have macro sites on the rooftops with all 3 major carriers, and then you also have small cells up and down the ocean, the road that runs oceanside here. So, and these small cells work in conjunction with the macro sites. They're not replacing those sites, right? Because you have influx of tourists coming in here, and they need coverage and capacity closer to the street level. So, but we really believe here at Tower Genius, and what we've been talking about for a long time, is that in densely populated urban areas, we definitely see that, I don't have a crystal ball, but we definitely see that at some point, the carriers are going to have enough 5G, 6G low-level sites on the street level where they could potentially go back to a landlord and say, hey, you know what? We're only paying $270 a year in the public right-of-way for these small cells, right? And they can power these things up. And hypothetically, they could take 10 or 15 of these small cells in an area and replace, a 60, 70, $80,000 a year rooftop site with, they could replace it with, a couple of small cells, a dozen small cells, and not pay. Sorry, I was trying to not get someone in the background there, but and they can avoid paying a ton of rent. And so economically, what would you do if you were AT&T? What would you do if you were, T-Mobile, Verizon? If you could eliminate a $60, $70, $80,000 a year rooftop site, a mature site, with a dozen, 10 or 20 small cells, let's say. And again, when I'm talking about these small cell in public right-of-ways, the wireless industry has lobbied in Washington, D.C. To make it policy where they only pay $270 a year in licensing fees to the county or the city government to operate in rent. So at some point, we believe in these urban markets, you're going to see a huge shift. And what's going to happen? It's going to happen overnight like that. You're going to have AT&T, Verizon, or somebody is going to say, okay, well, we're going to take these 50 sites or these 100 sites, these macro sites that are whatever, $60,000 plus a year in rent or whatever they are, and they're gonna turn up these small cells, and they'll have the leverage to go back to a landlord at that point and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, give us a 80% rent reduction or we're taking your site off the air. And of course, no landlord's going to do that. So we do believe that in these urban markets that 10 years from now, 15 years from now, I don't think these sites are going to be, I think most of these sites are going to be gone, right? They're going to be eliminated, I believe. So what is that? That doesn't mean anything as far as, if you have I'm not saying your rent is going to be impacted if you're a landlord, like a rooftop landlord, but I think that the buyout values definitely are going to change over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I just don't know. This is like musical chairs, in my opinion. And at some point, the music is going to stop. I don't know how long the party is going to last with the buyout market, for example. But we do see these buyout offers all the time. But at some point, the music's going to stop. And in musical chairs, you want to make sure that you're sitting in a chair, AKA, you want to make sure that, look, if you want to keep collecting the rent, collect the rent for as long as you possibly can. Enjoy it, and then don't worry about it. But if you are concerned about it, if you're wondering, well, is this, I have whatever 30, 40 years left on my lease agreement, and I don't think that this site is going to be operational in 30, 40 years. Well, just sell it. I can't give you financial advice. Some people do 1031 exchanges, or just pay the taxes on it and put the money in something else. Talk to a financial advisor. So anyhow, if you have questions about a rooftop cell site lease anywhere in the United States, my business partner Kevin Donahue and I have been working with property owners exclusively for over 18 years now. And Kevin brought me into the business in 2000, doing site acquisition work for his company at that time. So we know both sides of the business. And if you have questions about a cell tower lease or a rooftop cell site lease, any type of proposal that you've received, give us a call at Tower Genius. Our number is 888-313-9750. You can visit us at towergenius.com, fill out a contact form, and we'll be happy to talk to you. Thanks a lot. Take care.